So our final team of the day, and kind of like Simon was saying, at this point, we are starting to get into like potential playoff teams. This is a team that I am extremely high on, so I've kind of artificially boosted them up the rankings by thinking they're going to challenge for home court. Where Vegas and Simon are a little bit more like this team is going to be a little bit better, but still based on last standings, and that is the Indiana Pacers. They finished last season with 35 wins and 47 losses, the 19th ranked offense and the 26th ranked defense. Wow, this really doesn't sound very good. Why? I wonder why Ian is so high on a team that was clearly not very good last season. Do you want to go over their offseason before we start picking apart this roster and projections?
Sure. Well, they had the big splash of the offseason by signing Bruce Brown Jr. I did not know he was a junior. To a 2 year, what was the money? Like $45 million deal, I believe.
Yeah.
Second
Team
year
option, though.
is, yeah, second year is not guaranteed. So it's really a 1 year, $23 million deal,
Mm-hmm.
which is still a lot of money for Bruce Brown. But under the new rules, you got to spend the money before the season starts. You have to get up to 90% of the cap. So for these teams that don't have a lot or that have a lot of cap space available, and there's not like a star free agent that you're pursuing, why not overpay a role player on a 1 year deal to bring him in and see how it goes? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. I don't hate the move at all. They also traded for Obi Toppin, kind of in a salary dump. New York just wanted to offload him, so they picked him up. There's a potential piece to fill the gaping void that they have at the fourth spot in this roster. And the guy that I'm really excited about, the new addition to this team, is Jarris Walker. Drafted him number 8
Yeah.
overall. He's a big dude with just incredible mobility for his size. Just like moves so well for a guy who's 6'8" and near 250 pounds.
Yeah.
Um, just like laterally, I mean, not the greatest vertical leaper in the world, but just like his ability to be agile and move around the court is pretty incredible. They also hopefully added Tyrese Halliburton, as in a full season of Tyrese Halliburton,
Yes,
because
that would be nice.
he missed half the year last year, but one of the best young guards in the NBA, and he was another big payday guy this offseason. He signed the 5 year rookie max as well.
Yeah. Oh man, so much to talk about with even just the players you brought up. Jarris Walker, I mean, I don't like he didn't get like he wasn't the most noticed rookie in summer league, but for any of the actual summer league game watchers, like Jarris Walker was eye popping. Like
Yeah.
like there were possessions where like teams could not inbound the ball because Jarris Walker was just like completely stopping any kind of entry pass. Um, his hand, like he looked even more mobile than he did in college. His hands were incredible, not just defensively but offensively. He was like hitting touch passes and transition. He was just like really looking like the uh, pretty like the most exciting version of what you could have wanted. It's just summer league, but like if you're already a Jarris Walker fan, this was a very affirming experience to watch the Indiana Pacers summer league team.
Yeah, I mean, if
Um,
he was scoring like 30 points a game, like, whatever, that's maybe not that indicative of what he's going to be in the NBA. It's more just like the movement and the like decision making, I think was more the important thing to see in summer league, and we absolutely saw that.
yeah. Um, so I mean, the biggest reason that I'm so high on Indiana is when like they're another team that's a little bit masked by their record because Tyrese Halliburton was hurt. When Tyrese Halliburton went down, this team was like 23-18 and very much in the thick of the playoff race. And no one
Yeah.
really expected them to keep them up, but the offense was really good. It was a top 10 offense when it was being run by Tyrese Halliburton before the injury. It didn't really bounce back when he came back. So, there is a bit of like sample size there. But it was Tyrese Halliburton and a whole bunch of passers. They loved putting multiple point guards on the floor with Nemhart and TJ McConnell. They're coached by one of the best, like they've got one of the best coaches in the NBA in Rick Carlisle, and he loves like creating through playmaking guards. And they've just added Jarris Walker as a like just and Bruce Brown. So they've just put two extremely physical, versatile defenders around Miles Turner, forming what I think is going to make a very strong defensive front court, even if like it's not ideal size there. But I think it's going to be enough. Like they still don't have a real small forward, but if you don't have a real small forward, Bruce Brown's the best player you could ask for. Like guard
Yeah.
size, but like absolutely just
Oh, I
does
forgot to
whatever you need.
mention they also drafted Ben Shepherd late in the
Yeah,
first round. Try
yeah,
to mention all these first round picks. I mean, he's just like a really smart, high IQ player, like really good shooter. I think that's probably the main reason they wanted to pick him up. He's an older player. He has a wing. He's not a very big wing, so
hmm
that doesn't necessarily fill in Indiana's need, and
No, it's
he's
all
probably not
small wings in
he's
Indiana,
probably
right?
not going to start anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like another guy for to like really grease the wheels around Halliburton.
Yeah, I feel like they've got four players on this roster that I'd call like that you could play the small forward position. It's Bruce Brown, Benedict Mathurin, Aaron Naismith still on the team, and Ben Shepherd. And all of those guys are like, yeah, you're a small forward, I guess.
Emphasis on the small.
Yeah, yeah, more on the small than the four. I mean, Bruce Brown's like 6'4" tops, and Benedict Mathurin has like good measurements, but he doesn't he's kind of short and long. Um, Obviously Benedict Mathurin has some room to grow as well. But yeah, I'm just excited about like I think you can really build a top 10 offense around Tyrese Halliburton with the right pieces around him. And I just
Mhm.
think the defense is going to be better. I think this team is going to be able to like fight for home court. At least like there's obviously the like elite contenders ahead of them, but after that, like I really like Indiana fighting for that like 4, 5, 6 spot because like I just think this team fits well together. And if Jarris Walker is as ready to play as he looked, him and Miles Turner, that's a nice defensive front court. You got the monster rim protector. Miles Turner quietly had a huge breakout year last year. Like
Yeah.
he finally had the season that everyone keeps acting like he's been having. Like everyone's like 3-and-D Miles Turner, he like perfect 3-and-D center. I'm like, yeah, have you seen him shoot? It's like,
Have
or
you
you
seen
check
him
those,
play?
like, yeah, he doesn't, but he was healthy. He looked better physically. He got to dive to the rim more with Sabonis out of the way. Still was one of the most monstrous, just like pure shot blocking rim protectors. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he finally shot like, he shot 37% from three, which is much better than he normally shoots. And hopefully he keep them up. He shot 55% from the field. So we're talking about his most efficient scoring season since he's been in the league. Without any downfall in defense, and it's just like I think they got the right roster around him that he can go out and duplicate that if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
And he's like a capable role man for Tyrese Halliburton. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Indiana extended him last year, which I thought was a great move. They just
yeah,
keep extending him for $20 million a year. I mean,
yeah,
if you can keep him at that number, eventually as the salary cap continues to rise, that's a really great contract.
yeah.
So yeah, he's under contract for a couple more years. But
He's in such a good situation because he is like he's this pure finishing type player, right? Like rolls to the rim and spot
mm,
up threes is most of his offensive game.
yeah,
And they've got another finisher on the team in Buddy Hield, who's a movement shooter, running around screens, causing a bit of chaos that way, not needing the ball in his hands. And then also, I guess Benedict Mathurin is also like a finisher who just kind of aggressively attacks the rim or shoots for better or worse. But then every other player basically projected to be in the rotation: Jarris Walker, Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, Bruce Brown. All of these guys are like um, smart players with like plus playmaking at their position. They all like to
yeah,
move the ball. They're all very like crafty guys. So I'm picturing I have this like like Indiana utopia offensive ecosystem in my head that I believe in Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton's ability to produce. And I think this is just a team that if they're healthy, this is a like, could really surprise people by how effective they are on offense. Because I don't think people look at them and see a hugely talented roster outside of Tyrese Halliburton, but I think I can really imagine a, a, a scary and delightful offense coming out of Indiana this year with just enough defense to be solid.
yeah. The one question I would have about this team, if everyone is healthy, I mean, that's always a risk, right? We shouldn't even need to necessarily bring that up. Just because Tyrese Halliburton got hurt last year doesn't mean it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Um, but like the one question I have about this team is like, yeah, Jarris Walker looked really ready to play both in college and in the summer league, and Miles Turner had a great year last year. But outside of those two, I'm not really in love with the Pacers front court depth. So
Yeah.
anything goes wrong with Jarace Walker's rookie season, if he's, just not quite ready yet, if he has a typical rookie season and isn't that impactful, and the great side of Jarace Walker is going to come later, and Miles Turner isn't able to, play 75 plus games or whatever, like I start to get a little bit more concerned about Indiana's defense because this is a really small team outside of those two guys.
Well, how do you feel about the likes of Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith and Obi
Yeah.
Toppin? And they got Daniel Tice on this roster as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not a lot of rim protection.
Yeah, yeah. Those Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith. I mean, Isaiah Jackson has had some moments where he's this kind of really mobile, fast kind of like combo big, a little
Yeah.
bit of a tweener. Like you probably only really wanted to play at the 5, but he doesn't really cover enough of your bases at the 5. But people have been high on him to some extent
Jalen
over
Smith
his.
too. I mean, he's also a pretty mobile big.
Yeah, yeah,
The one thing neither of those guys do is shoot. And you'd like them to be more than just a rim runner and like switchable defensively. I
yeah,
mean, that's great if it's great to have like one guy on the roster like that because that's kind of Obi Toppin as well. But you don't. Well, maybe not the switchable defensively part with Obi Toppin, but like that's not that can't be like the only option that you have outside of Miles Turner when he's sitting down.
yeah. Jalen Smith, I thought was going to be a better shooter than he was last year. Maybe that bounces back. Like he has flashed some 3-point ability in his time
Yeah,
in the NBA. He's got this kind of slow catapulty shot, but like when he got traded to Indiana from Phoenix last year, I think he was shooting like 38% from 3 for the rest of the season, and he did not replicate that this year. So I think that's taken away from a lot of people's Jalen Smith enthusiasm. Isaiah Jackson.
I was high on Jalen Smith going into the draft.
Yeah, I think I was too. I haven't. I don't love his mobility as much as Isaiah Jackson's though. Like I think he looks a
Yeah,
little bit clumsier in a few more situations, where Isaiah Jackson looks very kind of fleet of foot and kind of a little bit closer to maybe like Precious Achua style of player. But he really doesn't have the shooting potential that Jalen Smith has. So there's both holes in both these players' games, but they're both really young bigs. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of them took one step forward or added kind of a skill in the off season that's going to make them a better rotation player. But also maybe not.
if we want to
Obviously,
talk
bringing
about
Daniel Tyson isn't
yeah, if we
that.
want to talk about some shooting, Obi Toppin improved a bit last year in New York. He's
Yep.
obviously a vertical spacing threat as well.
Yeah, Obi Toppin's this kind of funny player because it's just third. He's been in the league for 3 years. You can. He's one of those players that if when people are talking about basketball, if they get overexcited about Obi Toppin, I want to be like, you are a highlight watcher. You
Yeah,
don't watch full games. You saw Obi highlight Obi Toppin throw down some incredible dunks, but there's no way you watched a whole game if you're that excited about Obi Toppin because he's got big strengths. He's a really like I like his style of play and his mentality out there in the court. Like he really goes hard, and you can tell he's like looking for ways to make an impact.
yeah,
He's not like one of these kind of random dumb athletes. He also does have some skills shooting the ball. He hasn't had a really great shooting season yet, but the shooting potential is there. But there's just some things physically about his game, his lateral movement, his like he's just not like that twitchiness that he brings. Like I remember him in college. I'm just like, wow, he looks like Sean Marion with a 3-point shot on offense, and then you see him on defense, and he looks like a 42-year-old Pau Gasol, but
yeah.
smaller. Like you stacked a bunch of water balloons on top of each other and just looked completely useless on defense. I think he actually has improved his defense in his time in the NBA, but there's still like he's got crazy stiff hips and just does not look strong in a lot of defensive situations, kind of thing. So I just I don't really know what a really good season looks like for Obi Toppin, though he's going to be able to go in there and finish some Tyrese Halliburton lob passes at the very least, I think.
Yeah, that should be a nice pairing in the pick and roll, at least on offense.
Yeah, if they can get some bench minutes together.
Yeah, I think I'm really interested in what the starting lineup is going to be because I just think like this team does have a lot of options.
What do you
You
think
know,
it's going to be?
well, Halliburton and Miles Turner are the two mainstays.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I think the other three can really shift a lot. They're probably going to want to start Bruce Brown. Maybe he's a six man for this team and just plays heavy minutes off the bench. But
I think they're probably also likely to start Buddy Hield. I
yeah,
think like his movement shooting has just been kind of an important part of their offense.
yeah,
And they don't have another player like that. There's all sorts of players with similar skill sets on this, but Buddy Hield's the only movement shooter unless you're really into like Aaron Naismith or something.
yeah. So if those two are on the court, that means Mathurin is probably coming off the bench again, like he
Yeah,
did most of last year.
I think that's the right role for him unless he changes his game up. Like
Yeah,
he's just a non playmaker right now. Like he's a pure just like put his head down, get to the rim, or jack up a shot the moment he touches it. So it's like unless he's not that I'm like obviously he could grow from that. So maybe they do really want to start Benedict Mathurin at the three, but I would guess it's going to be Halliburton, Buddy Hield, Bruce Brown, Jarris Walker, and Miles Turner. I'd be
yeah.
very disappointed if Jarris Walker was not in the starting lineup to the point where I'm like every nice thing I said about Indiana, forget it.
Well, yeah, it's a team that has the most obvious hole at like a major position, and then they drafted a guy who like perfectly fits that position of need. So
Yeah.
it's hard to imagine them not starting him. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that should wrap us up for this week's season preview.